All right, guys, so today we are on Lake of the Ozarks in Missouri. This is our final day of practice. Actually, there's another day of practice tomorrow, but I'm going to use it to prepare for the tournament, so I'm not even going to go out for the half day. We are out here. This is the third day of practice. Missed the first day because just spending time with the family, but really so far it has been a crazy practice with lots of fish catches. This lake is just absolutely chock full of them. I think it's probably the best bite that I've ever been on in the month of September. Usually September across the country, September, early October is a grind. And you know, like for instance, the last tournament at Watts Bar Lake, we finished 14th. So we were on a pretty good bite, but the bite in general was pretty darn tough. And in that tournament, you know, just getting bites was difficult. But here, you know, I could catch 50 fish just running down the bank, you know, just randomly. So very, very different scenario here. And you know, throughout the event, I've been thinking about the arguments about, you know, shaking fish off in practice, or setting the hook on fish in practice, or sore lipping the fish in practice, and figured that I'd share with you guys some of my thoughts on that practice. So we're gonna get fishing. We're gonna get on the front here. We got our wireless mic on, so you guys will still be able to hear me. If you can't hear me, then you're probably not watching this video and I had mic issues. But, you know, throughout this practice, I've caught a lot of fish. I've sore lipped a lot of fish. My buddy Matt Steffen, who will, you know, he makes fun of me a lot for this. Criticizes me is more like it. You know, and I agree with them in a lot of scenarios. You know, sore lipping fish can be a detriment to a tournament, and you know, I'm sure that at some point or another I've you know, hindered my success in tournaments because I've sore lipped certain fish. I'm sure that that's the case, but I can guarantee, and I'm very confident in the fact that for the most part, setting the hook on some fish in some scenarios during practice has been beneficial to, you know, building a strategy. And that's what you really got to think about. You know, if you're not disciplined and you're just sore lipping every fish, it's going to hurt you in the tournament. You know, we don't want to be the people that just win practice every time. Okay. But there's a lot of different ways of looking at it. Okay, so for instance, let's talk about Watts Bar. You know, last week that was an excellent cast, if you guys didn't notice. But let's talk about Watts Bar. Watts Bar, man, I just created a mess. You do something like that with braid, it's going to come back to you. Let's figure this out first before we start diving into the juice. This topic. What the heck? All right, there we go. Golly, let's not do that again. So Watts Bar, I casted it over another dock. There we go. So Watts Bar was a scenario where, you know, classic early fall, late summer deal where you know, you're not going to get a lot of bites, right? And so you know that keeper bites are going to be at such a premium. You really don't want to burn any bites. So in that tournament, for the vast majority of the scenarios that I was facing in practice, I was shaking fish off. You know, if I was flipping, there's no way that I'd set the hook on a bass. You know, in most cases, you know, if it was an area I know that I'm not going to fish in the tournament just because, you know, I've kind of eliminated it, you know, and I just get one random bite at the end of a few hours fishing an area, yeah, I'll set the hook on it just for fun, you know. But you know, if there's even the remotest possibility that I am going to be fishing the area, I'm not going to set the hook. I'm going to shake those fish off. I'm not even going to have a hook on. You know, I'm going to use some kind of, what I like to do is take the Z-Man spike that's on the TRD spins. Take the TRD spins, the actual blade off, and then use the spike as my hitchhiker, you know, and just, you know, put that on, you know, stick that in whatever plastic I'm using, put a little bit of super glue on it. It'll stay there all day. I can shake off every fish, and they'll be none the wiser. Okay, so that's one you know, scenario. So if the fishing is very, very tough and you think that it's going to be just tough catching a limit, don't burn any fish. You know, that's my opinion. Okay, but if it's normal fishing, you know, the good parts of the year, maybe it's a good tournament lake, like this lake right here, Lake of the Ozarks, has way more fish than I ever thought that a lake could have fish, and they're all seeming to bite right now. And this is a time of the year that you know, generally is really tough. And so I found that out pretty quick, you know, because I can get 40 bites easy, not even fishing hard. And so in this scenario, the key to my strategy is figuring out you know, what parts of the lake and what areas are going to have the better than average size fish. You know, I need 2.5+ pounders for this tournament. And so the only way for you to be able to tell that 100%, I know there's a lot of guys that say that they can you know, shake fish off and they know exactly what size they are, and you know, if it's really big, yeah, you know what, you know what a you know, fish, you know, a big fish when you feel it, you know. But fish in the 3-pound range, you know, a 2-pounder could feel like a 3-pounder, you know. So that's a scenario where you know, I just think that it's very, very important to see what size you're dealing with, because in the tournament you want to be able to make decisions based on fact, not assumption. And you know, another you know, example is last week at Watch Bar, even though I still agree that shaking fish off was really important, I ended up trying to shake off a walleye in 2 foot of water and thought it was a bass, about to mark it, and it turned out to be a walleye. First for me on that. But you know, mudfish, all kinds of different, you know, catfish, all kinds of different fish, you know, could potentially fool you into thinking that they're bass. So you know, my whole idea is that when I've got a limit and I need to start upgrading, I need to make the most how do I say this, informed decision possible. And if I'm just guessing that you know, a fish felt okay or felt decent, you know, there's a good chance that maybe I just, you know, misjudged it. But you know, if I'm fishing a lake that's really, really good, and I get on a line of ducks and all I'm catching is 3-pounders, and I know that they're 3s because I caught them in practice, but I still have plenty of water to where, you know, I'm not really worried about, you know, sore lipping a couple of them. You know, I'll just go ahead and sore lip them just so I can make that determination. Okay, so that's really important. But that being said, don't go, like, right now we're fishing a line of docks. I caught a 3-pounder at the very first or second dock, and I put down that rod that had a hook on it. Now I'm throwing a, you know, top water bait with rolled in hooks. I'm not going to catch the fish on top because, you know, you can pretty much see the size, you know, within a, you know, a certain degree, you can kind of see what size you're dealing with top water. So the top water is also a scenario that you don't need to be setting hook on any fish. You know, you really don't need to be sore lipping fish on top water, because you can kind of gauge how big they are, or even see them. You know, like I had another bite that was like, looked like it was in the 3 or 4 pound class on the top water that, you know, obviously I didn't catch. But anyways, don't burn, you know, don't go down a bank that, if you know, if it fits the pattern that you're fishing and you get a good bite right off the bat, don't burn any more fish. There's no reason for that. Just fishing in the tournament. You may have got lucky but more often than not, if it's part of your pattern, you know, you've got more fish to catch, so just don't burn them. But yeah, so those are kind of the key things that you need to think about when deciding whether or not you're going to shake off a fish or not. It definitely has a lot to do with the type of technique that you're throwing, whether or not you can see those fish. I know a lot of guys that throw swim baits and glide baits, you know, they will take hooks off, and I agree with that because most of the time you're visually seeing them. But if it's something that you don't have a visual lock on that fish, I think if the fishing is good and there's plenty of fish to be caught, catching a couple fish just to see what kind of size class you're dealing with and what kind of condition they're in. That's another thing that I didn't mention, is the condition. You know, if you start catching some good fish but they're skinny, that may be an indication that it's not like a big population that has just moved in. It may be residential fish. Also the color, you know, if they're really, really dark, a lot of times that means that they're residential. They're beat up, residential. But if you get those perfect football, fat, you know, schooly looking fish, those fish may be a whole new wave that moved in. And that's especially important during the spring, you know, when you're trying to find those big populations of fish that are moving into the shallows. So anyways, I guess what I'm trying to get at is that there are strategic benefits to each train of thought, and I don't think that saying that you always shake fish off is good, and you know, always catching fish is definitely not always good. So anyways, guys, I'm gonna get back to practice. I'm probably not going to be setting the hook on any more fish because I've already caught plenty to prove what I'm doing. Did you see that? Fish literally just hit that top water bait right on the edge of that dock without moving it at all. Crazy. But anyways, guys, I'm gonna get back to it. Thank you for watching. If you guys have any questions or comments at all, drop a comment below, but also make sure that you like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy this content and seeing this content. And if you have any other questions or any video ideas, make sure that you let me know in the comments too. All right, guys, make sure you trust the process. Hopefully we'll do well here at Lake of the Ozarks in the second to last Bassmaster Open of the year. And I will see you out on the water. Take care.